Welcome to the Clear to Send podcast, a podcast about wireless engineering, where we educate you on Wi-Fi technology, talk about design tips, troubleshooting, interviews, and the tools. Here are your hosts, Roel and Francois.
Hi guys, welcome to a brand new episode of the Clear to Send podcast show. I'm here with Roel this morning. Hey Roel, how are you?
Hello, good morning everyone.
Good morning, and this is episode number 272, and we're talking about NetAlly presenting at Mobility Field Day 6, so we're continuing our Mobility Field Day series, and today we're talking about NetAlly and a couple of things that we thought were interesting about their presentation that we wanted to outline in today's episode.
Yeah, I think it's good to have them back at Mobility Field Day. And remember when they first did their presentations, and looking forward to seeing these updates.
Remember the coming out?
Yeah, I remember that. It was like a secret.
Yeah, they're pretty much regular at Mobility Field Day. And this year, a couple of things that we wanted to talk about. The first topic was BLE surveys. So we'll go back and talk about how we can do BLE surveys. And the second thing we wanted to talk about is the new LANBERT solution that they have to test your cables and to see if you try to answer the question, do you need to upgrade your cables when you're moving into like a multi-gig, infrastructure network.
Yeah, for sure.
So for the first topic, the BLE surveys, I thought that was interesting because that's not something you see, everywhere. And BLE is like a technology that's more and more used, alongside Wi-Fi. We've seen it with vendors integrating BLE radios into their access points. So as far as I know, Mist has this, Aruba, Meraki, maybe other vendors have BLE radios integrated. But we start to see these BLE radios leveraged for different type of services. It could be like location services to kind of track track people around, but track assets around.
It can track people.
Yeah, I guess you can track people. BLE is also used to do, to kind of see how many people are in a room. They could be used for your IoT purposes, some different sensors. So a lot of cool BLE technologies could be leveraged in the enterprise space alongside the Wi-Fi, and that's what we're starting to see more and more in the field. And we have tools to kind of do the planning, to do some predictive design for BLE. But we didn't really have a tool to kind of go on site and measure the BLE signals, validate the BLE beacons, put that on a map. And so I was kind of interesting to see that NetAlly kind of provide a solution that does this. And I came across these when I was working on the project with Miss, we were trying to do location and over BLE, and I couldn't really measure the BLE signal on site and put it on a map. I had to kind of rely on the vendor tools, which is not bad, but sometimes as an engineer you always want to kind of measure for yourself and validate the coverage on the map. So I thought it was a pretty nice addition to the tool they have.
Yeah, exactly. And I think being able to do a validation survey, a Wi-Fi validation survey, and also the BLE, like put that together on a map and get more of the job done, especially with all these vendors adding the BLE radios into their hardware. I think we're going to see a lot more applications using BLE as soon as management realizes, they go, oh, we have BLE. Let's develop something to utilize that and get some investment out of our infrastructure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it can validate our design as well, because when you design for BLE, usually vendors will give you some guidelines. So they'll tell you, you have to place a sensor every X amount of meters. So you try to integrate that into your design, and you comply with the rules or with the guidelines. But like you said, it's nice to be able to validate it. And the fact that you can just do it at the same time as doing your Wi-Fi site survey is also nice, because you can just save time. You do everything at once. So I thought that was pretty cool.
And it's not just the BLE on access points, but it could also validate the different beacons that are available, right? There's different little beacons that you could purchase and use that for BLE.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think you can discover any type of BLE devices that sends specific type of beacons. So NetAlly, they look at 3 different type of beacons: the Eddystone UID, the Eddystone URL, which I think are the one that used by Android and other devices as well, and then the iBeacons that you would see used by Apple. And this is interesting, because usually when you work with BLE tags, they can give you the options to choose the format of the beacon that you want to use. So when I did my testing, I was using contact.io BLE tags, and in the app you can just select which type of beacon you want, and you could even broadcast multiple beacon of multiple type from the same tag. And I could see all of it in the Mist UI. So, you would be able to detect all of them in the in Link Live with NetAlly. And to be able, that one thing we did a note here, that to be able to do the BLE survey, you need the EtherScope NXG.
That's probably important to mention.
yeah, exactly. And the reason why you need the EtherScope NXG is because you would have like the BLE radio inside the device to do the survey. You can also do an active site survey, active and passive. You correct me if I'm wrong, Roel, but I think you can do active and passive site survey at the same time, because they have 2 Wi-Fi radios in that device.
Yeah, there's 2 radios. One was in the beginning just primarily used for management, but then I think later on there's an update that allowed you to use that radio as well as for the surveys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think it's important to really talk about Link Live and its capability, because it comes with the purchase of the hardware, right? You have this online platform where your data is uploaded to, so you can then see it through Link Live, and the amount of data that it does show you, especially with this BLE survey, is extensive. Like you can filter things and get the actual BLE addresses down to the name of that BLE, the type. There's so much different data that it collects, and then being able to put that on a map and show you like a heat map of that BLE beacon, because I think that's what's important, right? People want to see that heat map, and whether the signal you're getting in a specific room is going to be good enough for that asset tracking.
Yeah, exactly. And in the additional information in the metadata you're also getting information that could be useful if later on you're doing development with the BLE and you're trying to leverage those beacons to do some stuff. You can even get access to that metadata as well. So it's pretty nice, like you said, to be able to put everything on the map.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it keeps things simple.
Well, we'll include a screenshot as well in the show notes. So if you head over to cleartosend.net/272, you should be able to see a couple of screenshots. It's actually very easy to do a BLE survey. All you have to do is on the EtherScope NAG, you enable the Bluetooth radio. And then when you go to the AirMapper application, you can start a survey and you will see that the Bluetooth is enabled, and they'll pretty much letting you know that you're collecting BLE information. And once you upload everything into Link Live, at the end of the survey, you can go back to Link Live, which is the cloud platform on which you can analyze your results.
Yeah, I might have to try this out for myself and use my Meraki AP. That's the only AP I have with me right now, and I know it has Bluetooth built in, so I'll see what kind of data I can gather from it and see how that compares to the screenshots that NetAlly provided.
Awesome. So that was the BLE surveys. Nice addition to their tool. The second thing we wanted to talk about today was the LANBERT solution, which is a new application that also have on their EtherScope NHG. And the LANBERT allow you to assess the a cable, but it's not just like a simple pass-fail type of test to see if you can achieve different speeds. It's a tool that assesses the quality of transmission and available bandwidth for a specific cable. And I think that's what they were trying to stress during the presentations. We'll put a link to the presentation so you can listen to, to what they were talking about. But it was a great presentation all around, like very technical. And what I understood from it is that, instead of being like a simple tool that tells you if you can achieve, 2.5, 5 gig, 10 gigs or not, like a simple pass fail, it actually do a more thorough test and try to see, what type of, speeds you can achieve, how much frames are failing, and look at it over time as well. So it can also detect if you have like sporadic interferences that could affect the transmission of the cable. So it looks like, I guess, a more thorough way to assess the cables. And also what they were saying is that, sometimes, some cables are going to fail, the 2.4, the 5 gig test, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they cannot achieve these speeds. It just means that something is wrong in the link setup.
Okay.
And so they're saying that it's a good idea to kind of test with LANBERT to see what your cable can do, even though you think it's not going to be able to achieve those multi-gig speeds.
Yeah, and I think if you are looking at upgrading your APs and you want to leverage multi-gig, right? Especially when we talk about Wi-Fi 6E. Maybe you want to figure out if you need to replace all your cables. Maybe they are old, but you don't know, right? And so you can you can hire someone to check this out, or you can do it yourself with these LANBERT tests and run that planned test where you're consistently testing it for a certain amount of time to see how many errors you're getting, what's the loss rate, and how long can it consistently stay the test over multi-gig speeds. And I think that extended test is probably the important one, because then you could test certain other devices to see if it causes interference on that line, right? They did that test in the video. I thought that was pretty interesting. I don't know if this is the same video, Francois, but it's the one where if someone was getting out of their chair, what kind of interference does that cause with the static, right? The electromagnetic static. It was just kind of the discharge. That's what it was. Yeah, and I was like, whoa! It actually causes a short spike. That was interesting.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, I think the important point is that you may find out that the cables you have, even though they're older, will be able to support multi-gig speeds, no problem. So like you said, if you're thinking of changing your switches and APs for like a multi-gig type of environment, you could use that tool to kind of see if your cables are going to be good enough, and they may be good enough.
And so the question I had though was, do you need two EtherScopes to run this test? Like, do you need one on each end of the cable? So
you need two applications, but I don't know if the LANBERT can run on something else than an EtherScope. Maybe it can run on another device.
Because
I'm not sure. Yeah,
because I saw the screenshots, and there's one LANBERT generator. I'm assuming something has to be on the other end to receive the data and send it back. Yes. Or you use some sort of loop back, and as long as it can see that data coming back, then you could use one EtherScope. So I think it is possible with one, but you got to do some loop back. You have to create a loop back on that cable.
Maybe, I'm not sure. From what I understood from the test, that they had one which was a generator, and the second one which was a loop back, sending back to the generator.
Okay.
Yeah. So it looks like you need two of them, but I don't think EtherScope is required. Maybe the link runner can also support it.
Okay.
As long as you have like 10 gig ports on that testing device, so you can test different speeds.
Yeah.
I think that's what's important. I think you can also test it on a fiber, if I'm not mistaken. So if you wanted to test the fiber as well, I think you can. So,
that I'm unsure of. I remember seeing it done on the copper, but yeah, maybe. I guess we'll have to verify that on the fiber side. I'm assuming it's copper. Yeah. But I mean, I use the EtherScope to test cables all the time. Not the LANBERT test, but I just test the cable to see if there's even problems. And I think that's part of the pass fail even model, right? Like if it's not getting multi-gig, maybe there is a problem with the cable, and then you could switch over to the cable test and see if something is crossed or you're missing one of the wires there. But I think the LANBERT test is I mean, if you've already got the EtherScope, in addition to doing the Wi-Fi site surveys, the BLE surveys, cable tests, Wi-Fi tests, like LANBERT is just another feature of the EtherScope that you could use and add that to your, I guess, list of services that you provide.
Another application in the tool, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing I wanted to add is, and I think that was interesting to me, is that, they were talking about the fact that noise on the keyboard can be coming from different sources. So it can come from like a crosstalk. It can come from the electrostatic discharge, like the one you were talking about earlier. And it can also come from electromagnetic pulses. So different motors or different elements in your environment, like if you're in a warehouse, you may have like a conveyor belt or something like that. So different elements can actually create noise on the keyboard. So like you said, I think the long, if you're having like issues on like recurrent issues on something, on an AP or something, you can actually do the long test and then try to enable the devices you have in your environment to try to see if they create noise or not.
Yeah.
So I think that was another good way to use the tool as well, to kind of find underlying problems that you've been having for a while.
Right. So I wonder then if some of these errors can be catched by or seen by the switch port, for example. So let's say we have a problem, even a Wi-Fi problem, right? Let's say you've ruled out Wi-Fi being the issue. So now you're starting to look at the wired side of things, and you've ruled out the AP hardware and the switch hardware, anything upstream being an issue. So now you're down to looking at the physical cable. So would you run like this LANBERT test over an extended time, or do you run a cable test? Maybe you run the cable test first because that's quick and it shows that it's good. Like if you run this LANBERT test and you see that there's loss or errors, I wonder if those can be seen by the switch port as well. Like will the switch port catch them as a, there's some sort of error on the line?
Well, if it's creating issues, I think you will see it. The difference with the LANBERT it will try to send tons of frames, right?
Yeah.
So you can emphasize the issue a little bit more. But if you're feeling the issue from the user experience standpoint, I think you should see some errors on the switch as well.
Yeah. I think it's a good way to, because some of the scenarios I see is like maybe somebody did their own cabling and, they ran like this big patch, this big bundle of cabling, and maybe it's not like really shielded very well. So then you have that crosstalk. Or maybe they ran the bundle of cables near a lot of power cables, for example. And so now we're getting interference. Like those are the tests I think you could run. You can run this LANBERT test and be able to see some of those problems and then have them operate their machinery, right? Like run the test with no machinery running and then get that baseline and then have them turn on their machines or, you know, whatever they're using in production and see if you can catch those errors.
Yeah. So I guess these two are the two topics we wanted to talk about today: BLE surveys and LANBERT. We'll put links in the show notes so you guys can learn a little bit more about it. We also encourage you to watch the presentation for Mobility Field Day so you can see what the vendors had to say about it and the interaction with the delegates. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let us know what you think. Leave a comment on cleartosend.net/272 and tell us whether you see these as being like really good advantages in a single tool. Is this something that you would carry in your tool belt?
Yeah. Right. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you very much for listening to us, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.